Hello and welcome. Today we are making pumpkin pie. I will go over two recipes, the dairy-free version I'm making in front of you today, and how to turn that back into a normal pumpkin pie if that is what you'd like, with just a few small changes. So let's get started. For our pie, we will be using a store-bought crust today to simplify things. Outside of that, you will need 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon ground ginger, 1/2 teaspoon ground nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon allspice, 1 tablespoon cornstarch if you are using non-dairy milk, 2 eggs, 1 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree, and 1.5 cups of oat milk or milk. If you're doubling this recipe for 2 pies, the difference in volume between 2 15-ounce cans and 1 29-ounce cans is so minimal you'll never know the difference, so just buy the bigger can. Also, if you're doing a double recipe, only use 3 eggs instead of 2. If you're using pumpkin pie spice blend, replace the cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and allspice with 2 teaspoons of whatever your pumpkin pie spice blend is. Starting out, we need to preheat our oven to 425 degrees. Now, first we'll just want to mix our pumpkin, milk, and eggs in a large bowl. This is to help us make sure that our eggs get thoroughly mixed in and make sure we don't end up with any sort of clumps of eggs or scrambled egg clumps in our pie. It's super quick and easy. Once it's a uniform color, we're good to go to the next step. On one of the pies I was making, I was having some back pain and undermixed one of the batch during testing, and as you can see here, there's little spots of yellow in the finished pie. Those are actually pieces of egg. It didn't make it bad, but you definitely want to not have those for visual purposes. Next up, we just need to add our cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, allspice, sugar, vanilla extract, and if you're making a pie with non-dairy milk, our cornstarch. I tend to use a sieve to spread the cornstarch out, but you can just add it without the sieve since it's not going to clump unless it has heat. Once everything is in the mix, you want to mix it for about 30 seconds to a minute extra to get everything in there and just get a few bubbles mixed in. That'll make the finished product a little bit lighter in texture. Alright, everything is mixed and we are now ready to pour. I recommend putting a pan under the pie tin just in case things do overflow. It also makes transporting it to and from the oven easier. I find you'll want to fill it all the way to the very top of the pie crust since there will be moisture lost while baking, and this is going to give you the fullest pumpkin pie possible. You may have a little bit of pumpkin pie mix left over after you fill both pies. If you do, what I recommend doing is putting it into a ramekin or other small oven-safe dish and just bake it right alongside your pie. I usually just serve those up the night I make the pie with a little scoop of ice cream 2 hours afterwards, and it's a beautiful dessert by itself. If you are enjoying this video and have not already subscribed, subscribe for more like this, and if you want to help the channel grow, like or share the video with someone you think will enjoy it. Also, the cats say hello. Now we just need to bake our pies in an oven preheated to 425 degrees for the first 15 minutes. Then we will want to reduce the temperature to 350 degrees and bake for another 40 to 50 minutes or until knife inserted in the center comes out clean. On the non-dairy version, the knife will never come out clean. I suggest cooking non-dairy pies till about 50 minutes. Once they are done, for the dairy version, cool for 2 hours at a minimum before eating. For the non-dairy version, you'll want to cool it off overnight, and preferably in the refrigerator to let the cornstarch fully set. So, while that bakes, let's talk about the difference between the non-dairy and dairy version. The normal pumpkin pie is a form of custard pie, this being thickening by the combination of the eggs and milk. Sadly, no non-dairy milk will make this magic happen, so we have to turn to other methods to make that happen. In the case of our pie here, this is cornstarch. It does the majority of the thickening after it's removed off the heat and allowed to start to cool and more or less cool fully before it fully thickens. So the normal knife method is not reliable, and at best we are just forced to use a timer and cooling it for a longer period of time. A note on the different types of non-dairy milks. The majority will produce a pie with less than stellar texture due to either being too thin or having too pronounced of a flavor. Rice and almond milk tend to be too thin. Cashew and hemp flavors tend to be a little too strong for the pie. Oat milk ends up with a few advantages over them. It is thicker than most of them, and the solids in it readily bind with the pumpkin, eggs, cornstarch, and themselves. This helps us get the right texture, and the flavor tends to blend in, being very mild. You can taste it, but it's so subtle, and it just really adds a little bit of extra taste to the pie rather than distracting from the taste profile. But as stated earlier, it also means you need to cool this version overnight to let the cornstarch fully set. So, what happens if you don't let your pie fully cool and set? You end up with a soft center that droops and falls in like you see here. This type of drooping will happen in any non-fully cooled pumpkin pie, so it's in your best interest to make them the day before. You want to use them for best results in texture. This recipe is nice and easy, and one of the great things about it is that even people who can have the dairy version will still be happy with this pie. A lot of times non-dairy versions of recipes leave a lot to be desired and feel like a downgrade from their normal version. In this case, the recipe has no loss of flavor or texture and should make everyone happy with the results. So as always, I would like to thank everyone for watching, and I hope you have a great day and a great meal.